Here I am expanding my range of East German model railways. This is another of these VEB Eisenbahn-Modellbau Zwichau, and I'm never quite sure whether I get that pronunciation right. These were all made in East Germany, so obviously before 1989, and you've seen this box before because this box has been used for a number of different models. Even on this channel I've had this one here, which is the EM15 little diesel shunter, and it came in the same box. And it's quite confusing because you'd think this was this BR75 EM16, but it isn't actually that one, it's this one here, it's the EM16S. Anyway, that's the one we've got inside this box, so without further ado, let's check it out. So here is the locomotive out of the box, and already you can see that this is quite an old machine. It's got some rust on it as well and a lot of dust and dirt. So it has been around for quite some time, but let's take a closer look at this model. As always, we'll start here at the front, and it's got this really characterful pointy front door on the smoke box here, and it has some white on it. Not quite sure what that is, but it seems to come off not too bad just with a bit of a wipe. And one of the things I really love about these locomotives is these little jewels here for the lights. It really makes it look as though the lights are on even though it's not. And I really like that effect. There's not a lot of detail on the smoke box door, a couple of hinges there, and you can see also dominating is this wire going across the top of it there, the wire handrail made of metal. It runs through these little studs and then into this hole here on the side of the smoke box. But this locomotive is in this really nice black, green and red livery. It's quite a dark green here, it's almost military looking. And on the side of the boiler there's a lot of details moulded in here where you can see some pipe works and these extra little parts here as well. There's another handrail running almost the whole length of the boiler all the way to the cab here, which is attached with these little metal brackets here. And on top we've got a very characterful twin dome here with a part in between and some pipe work coming down the side of the moulding. That's really quite cool. You can see that this one has a screw there, and this is typical of models of this era where this screw just holds the model together. Chimney doesn't have a lot of deep relief on there, and it also has a bit of damage there. It looks like it's been chipped, so this has been through the wars a little bit. On the side of the tank here there's some nice rivet detail and this red lining going all the way around, which has been applied pretty well, but it is starting to show its age now. It does look as though the cab has had some glue put on it at some point, maybe it came apart. It looks as though it would lift off from above, but it's certainly quite secure just now. Inside the cab, obviously it's the huge big motor that these models have, so there's no interior detail, but there is enough space there just to sneak in a little driver if you wanted to. Further back here there's more rivet detail around the bunker with some steps going up. Nice boxes moulded in here with some good bracket detail. And these steps coming down, this is all in red, which has been painted and masked off. Not too bad at all, actually. And the bunker here has pretty poor representation of coal, always stacked up all the way up to the top as usual. You can see that some of the paint has been chipped off there and the green is showing through. So this has been painted black and it's been masked off not too bad. You can see it around the back of the bunker. And no glazing at all on this model. Up on the roof, it's been painted black, and the masking between the two is actually pretty good as well. A lot of things going on top of the roof here, and you can see it right through these little hatch things up here. There's also additional parts here with the bell and this part here which have been added in plastic, and there's another metal railing running the whole length of the top of this tank here. Again, it's looking a bit rusty all over this locomotive, so it's ripe for a restoration job. Really nice hatch here which has been moulded in on both sides and looks very convincing. And on the buffer beam here at the front is some details of rivets and various other parts, and these metal buffers as well, which are very strong. It's going to take a lot of bashes and survive, I think. This part here where the little step is also made of metal, and these buffers are screwed in through the body into this piece of metal here, so it's quite a solid construction and it's going to be quite robust as well. As we look at the mechanics down below, we've got this pony truck at the front just with a single wheel on it. A fair degree of motion on this, and the coupling is just hanging out the front here. It's a very crude metal one and it does have a little bit of rust on it. And we have the pistons here which have been painted green, and then the valve gear is quite extensive and it moves quite a lot as well. It's quite loose. It's very overscale, but it's very typical of models of this era. It's even got some red here down on the connecting rod, which is very nice. The wheels have plastic red inserts and metal outside surrounds. There's pickup from all these wheels you can see inside there. And here we have, I think that's a capacitor or something, part of the motor anyway. All metal chassis. We have another pony truck at the back here with it again, another coupling on it. The back of this model is showing a little bit of damage. We've got this part here where the buffer beam has been broken and the buffers have been snapped off. So while those buffers might be quite robust, it can still take damage and get broken, unfortunately. But we do have this selection of 3 lights here again with the jewels in, which I really love, and there's more details moulded into the back of the bunker as well. Also up here in the moulding there's some convincing detail of wood grain on this part here, along with these straps with rivet detail on it. And just looking underneath, we've got quite coarse scale on these wheels. There's a very big flange on them, and this metal part holding the whole locomotive together underneath here. So overall, this model looks as though it's had a bit of a hard life. It has a lot of dirt on it, it's got some rust as well, it's got a bit of damage at the back. So it's ripe for a restoration job, and I don't think it'd take much effort to get this back looking really good. Anyway, I think we should put this on the test track and see if it runs first before we open it up and have a look at the mechanics. So here we have it on a bit of test track. It's just some Hornby Radius 3 track, and I'm using my H&M to power this locomotive. I've not tried this before, so let's give it some power and see what happens. Well, it's good news that it runs. It is really noisy, but you kind of expect that of models of this era, and it needed a bit of a push to get going, but once it started going, it was not too bad at all. I noticed one of the wheels on the pony truck at the front was a bit wobbly, but I managed to fix that just by pushing it back into place. So let's get the body off. It's just that screw on the top there. So one of the things I noticed when I was taking this apart was that this screw here was holding the model together, but you can see it's not original because it's got a pointy end here, so this is more like a wood screw. But I've actually found a spare one here, this bolt here, which has got a flat end, so that will fit into here, no problem at all. Of interest though that it's got two threaded holes here, so you can see that this chassis is actually used for different models from the range. So next step is to get the pony trucks back on, and then I can put the body back on and we'll give it another try on the test track. So there is a bit of a problem with this weight here. There seems to be a piece missing at the front, which this part clips into, and then this part here where the screw goes down onto this panel up here, looks as though it's maybe been broken a little bit. And so the result of that is under here you can see where it's actually resting on one of the gears and it's wearing away this weight. So that's probably why it's making so much noise and isn't running so good. So I think I need to make a piece for this front part here just to slot into here, just to hold this weight and keep it up off the gear wheel. So that's the next step. So just by chance I've found this little piece of metal in my spares box and I've just filed down the edges here so that it will fit into here and the metal weight can just rest against it and then not foul the gears. So I'm just going to glue that into the chassis and then put the weight in. Okay, let's try this on the test track and see if it's any better. Well, it's certainly very characterful, this locomotive. It's now running absolutely perfectly in the forward direction. Very smooth, very quiet, it's really quite good. But in the reverse direction, it makes a hell of a racket and I've no idea why. But aside from the noise, it runs really good. So that's really good. We've got this locomotive back on the rails again and it's running great. It still looks really bad. But I think that might be another video where I'll clean this up and maybe put in some new wires and things like that as well. So what's my thoughts on this old East German locomotive? I actually really like this model. It's very robust and it can handle a few bashes, but obviously this one's been through the wars with its missing buffers at one end. Looks as though it's possibly been dropped on the back at one point, and it's also really dirty as well. But models like these have been around for a while, so you expect to have some of these kind of things happening to them. It's really standing the test of time. Things like the printing on the side of the locomotive is still very clear, and the mechanics seem quite solid. Even though it had that problem with the weight running on the gears, it still seems to be pretty good. So they've obviously been built to last. A bit crude, but I think they'll continue on model railways around the world for years to come. So it's a great little model to add to your collection if you're thinking about buying one of these. And I've seen them quite cheap on places like eBay as well, so you could pick it up for not a lot of money. I've had a whole bunch of fun playing with this model already, and it'll make another appearance when I start to give it a bit of a restoration on the bodywork and maybe get some buffers for it as well. Let me know what you think about this little tank engine in the comments below. I'd love to know what you think as well. And if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps this channel grow. I'll put this on the turntable so you can see all the way around. And I'll put a link to another video on screen now. And you can click that and I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching. See ya.